Hello, 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 beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of the USL Show, brought to you by Goals TV, and you'll hear more about them later. But I want to go ahead right off the bat, thank our wonderful, beautiful patrons: John Hunt, Frank Anthony, Aaron J., Christopher Cohn, Harry Austin, John Fuller, Michael Fuchs, Joshua Duder, Noah Telford, Alberto Aguilar, Jeremy Churchman, Stephen Howard, Rion Lacara, Tim Knox, NF Reg 30, MOS, and Kunal Patel. Thank you guys so much for supporting us and letting us do what we can to tell you all about the USL stuff. Hey, Alan. Hi.
Hey, how's it going? I just got notified the USL show is going live, so on YouTube. So,
What?
Yeah.
I hate those guys.
I might have to bounce out to check out that show.
Ryan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, and I'd be remiss not to mention the biggest soccer news today was Greenland applying to be a member of CONCACAF. If you thought losing to Trinidad and Tobago to miss World Cup qualifying was bad, wait until we're getting eliminated on a frozen tundra in Greenland. And I just want to mention that Greenland absolutely fits CONCACAF because it's not a location, it's a state of mind.
This is a real question. What's the difference between Greenland and Iceland in terms of federation? Aren't they like
Iceland's in UEFA. Greenland is, although they're part of Denmark, UEFA is not letting them join UEFA. So, it makes more sense that they play in the same region that has Antigua and Barbuda.
They just want to be warm. They're just really cold. Phil.
The idea of someone applying for CONCACAF membership just seems so insane. Like, you want to be a part of this? Anyways. No, it's I had a enjoyable long weekend, but ready to chat about USL and just how drunk the Jägermeister Cup was this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get into some Jägermeister goodness because I don't know if it is truly the PKs that are coming at the end of it that change the way that teams play, but they play differently in the Jägermeister than they do in the regular league, which is wild.
Yeah, it's a shot at glory. Truly, they are all taking shots. And then just playing on pure vibes.
Thank you for joining in. It's Ryan Reno, which actually we're about to use what you have posted on Twitter earlier. So, thank you. Let's go ahead and hop into that. Actually, this is kind of a broader topic, but let's kind of focus in on this Michiana Lions deal, so formerly known as like the South Bend Lions, I do believe. And they had a hot mic situation that we kind of talked about pre-show, which has a funny little twist in it that Phil found that I didn't even notice. That I'm just going to let you guys listen to it. This was a broadcast on for League Two that I think needs to be heard, and we'll get into some deeper conversation about this.
Hey, let me talk to Eric real quick. My man, Brecken's getting smoked on this side, and he's fucking walking back. Franco's chasing that down, and he's just fucking jogging. That's his man. Yeah. Hey, let me talk to Eric real quick. My man, Brecken's getting smoked on this side, and he's fucking walking back. Franco's chasing that down, and he's just fucking jogging. That's his man. Yeah.
The one thing that we all learn in broadcasting school, assuming that you went to it, every mic's a hot mic. And this is one of the more just direct, like you can't say that. This is not like slipping up of okay, I don't want to try to act like one's worse than the other, but like we've heard hot mics, with the very famous Nick Castellanos drive into deep left field. We've all heard it, right? But directly attacking one of the players is an insane hot mic. That is, and not saying that using slurs and stuff is better. It's not. I want to make that very clear. But I don't think I've ever heard an outright attack of a player on a hot mic before. That is just nuts to me.
I mean, I will say, like, we're not that far removed from a Apple TV MLS hot mic going after Phil Neville. So in Portland. So yeah, I mean, League Two, these sorts of things, I feel like they happen. I'm not going to say regularly at the League Two level, but I'm going to say that stuff gets said on mics a lot more regularly on League Two level than elsewhere. Whether or not it gets caught all the time, I think is like, yeah, questionable. Yeah, I think in general, this is a weird one because he does make a call to the assistant coach. So it means he's calling down to the sideline to say, like, this is what I'm seeing up top. It's not a great look for a club that is already sort of just in a weird place with its supporters, as you alluded to before we started recording. So yeah, it's a really weird moment. And you have to feel for the player too, because getting dug out like that on a team's broadcast is yeah, it can't feel good. Even, regardless of the performance, it's never good to get dug out like that.
Hey, I need to talk to Killer real quick. Yeah, Phil's last take on that one was a hot mess. Oh, sorry.
Also, that girls soccer game. If you have not seen the girls high school game hot mic that came out a couple days ago, it's on Awful Announcing. Take a look at that. Absolutely unbelievable. Also, the Taketo goal for Ballard was nuts. If you haven't seen that from League Two, that hot mic was worse. I will like the initial
That was
like
the first one I found.
See, that one's bad. If you don't know what we're talking about, basically the announcer goes from "This is the worst soccer I've ever seen. If they're not even going to put a pass together, I might as well just leave." And then eventually it says, "There's a hot mom down there. Look at that mom. She's real hot." It was just like, what is going on?
Oh my God. No, yeah, I don't know. Just some situational awareness. That's all we're asking for, people.
Well, one thing that kind of going on here is that the group that has been supporting South Bend, who are now Michiana, 6 Districts Coalition, they are not supporting the club for a little bit. Like, they still love the club and what they've originally said, but they said that they want to see changes. And until then, like, they are going to take an extended leave. And I think that some of the stuff that they have laid out in the past, apparently some club officials didn't know Spanish. They were doing a chant in Spanish, and they said for them to stop because they said they were saying inappropriate things or anything like that. They have posted the receipts. There was nothing inappropriate. They just didn't speak Spanish, so they just assumed. This is also the same ownership that owns Kettering Town, which I was going to do the K and an E and a T and a T thing, but there's like 3 people going to get, but like, I figured it wasn't worth it.
I love James A. Caster, so
it's so good. But they've kind of mentioned the same incompetence that has seen Kettering Town go down the table in England is kind of made its way over here as well. They have talked about the change in the names and how people were talking about how good South Bend Lions were and how well they were attended, and people compare them to South Bend Lions all the time, not knowing that they are the South Bend Lions because they have killed their own fandom, their own ownership, or like their own like fan groups. They also did say like, hey, by the way, we haven't won a game in 2 years, and like there just seems to be no direction for the club. Like there is just no sense of competing, no sense of trying to do the big what are they call friendlies like they used to, like when they played the defending champions Marshall. Like they just don't do that stuff anymore. And they said that when they hired these coaches, speaking of coaches, their coach had zero like college or semi-pro experience. He was just a high school coach that got hired, and we're just like, basically they were boys, and that's why. And which explains the top-down incompetence of, hey, I'm gonna call Eric, right? Like if they're all just friends and they're all just fellas, it's like, hey, I'm just gonna call Eric, get this kid off the pitch. Like that's just insane amounts of incompetence. And South Bend was a crazy fun like support that they've had these last few years. They were one of the few League Two teams that you would watch and be like, man, I say one of the few. There's a lot of good support, but you'd be like, man, like that is a love for a club. Like they are out there supporting. And you, as someone who watches a lot of League Two and W League, you always get excited to watch the bigger crowd games because there's an atmosphere. And, even if the game isn't going well for that team, the atmosphere is great. And their club has just let it all go. And that's nuts to me.
Well, and it's like you contrast that with Ballard FC setting a regular season record in attendance with 2,500 people at a regular season USL2 match. I mean, there's levels to this, and like there's ownership and clubs that understand how to be taken seriously and how to get it right, and there's other clubs that have this happen.
And to tie it back to what you were saying, Kaylor, to the more of the broadcast sense, I really think it is important for clubs, especially at this level, to put their best foot forward. The one thing that not just your own fan base, but how other fan bases are going to perceive your club and how they operate is going to be your broadcast. I mean, how many times, even across USLC and USL1, that we've looked at a team's broadcast and said, it's like, hey, that could be a little bit better, or they could do this a little bit better, or something along those lines. And I really think it's important if you're going to be streaming these games. First off, it's fantastic to have these streams in the first place to begin with, because we've seen some teams who just don't have streaming at all. But if you're going to be streaming these games, you really want to put your best foot forward and have whatever you're showing to the rest of the world be something that is reflective of your club. And if we're going to see situations like this, it's not very hard to make a leap of judgment and saying, it's like, okay, if this is how they're going to run their streams, how are they running their club?
Yeah, this is like a less cute version of when, like, I think Nisa was on like My Cujo or whatever, and I forget which game it was. It was a playoff game, and it was literally like two middle school kids were holding the device that was streaming the game and talking to each other, but I don't think they realized that the people could hear them. But this is like, just reminds me of like some more older school, just fly by the seat of your pants kind of deal. And I think it is something that teams can make a small investment into in order to get big returns from, like you said, how they're viewed from the outside. I mean, look at us. We're just dudes hanging out with some microphones, and like, it doesn't take a lot to create something that looks like halfway decent for public consumption. And I think it's just one of those detail-y things that folks miss out on. And unfortunately, the teams don't usually see those broadcasts back. So like, how are they even making some improvements unless someone's pointing that out? But to be fair, like, there are USL Championship, there are MLS broadcasts that are less than ideal as far as camera angles and quality of camera angles, like NYCFC, Man City Junior, like, of all teams, like, you think they might be invested. We've got sun glare. We can't watch this goal go in because like no one can see it. So I mean, we're not saying that everyone is like perfect, but these are very easy like things to like have an off switch on your microphone. And people make mistakes, right? Like I've had my audio go through my computer instead of my microphone, and I was, commenting on something that you can hear, or opening up a bag or a jersey bag, so it sounded like I was having chips in the middle of a broadcast. Like these things happen, but I think if teams want to be taken a little more seriously, they need to, be a little bit more serious in how they produce.
Real fast, William, I don't know if we're talking about the Sacramento Birmingham game today. Maybe I'll probably mention it in passing at the end. So there's that. The local journalism program, I've been very open in the fact that I would kill to be Legion's WFC like person. Like I would do it for free. I would drive out there, set up the cameras, do it myself, do it for free because I love what the WFC like team represents. And I mean, this is not just me taking a pop shot at Birmingham. This is a lot of teams, but they don't have a stream for their 2 team or their W League team all the time. And it's like, if anybody's going to have it, theoretically, it should be your professional teams. And there's a lot of League 2 teams and W League teams that like I'm going to watch highlights because I'm trying to find stuff for the glove of the game because I want to highlight some League 2 and W League. And there's these amazing performances that you can't find anything on. Like I read these box scores on how they had this many shots and this keeper saved this many shots. And I go to watch the replay so I can edit it and it doesn't exist. And if you're a semi-professional player, isn't that the point of this? Is to get scouted by a college, by a professional club? Isn't that the whole point of doing these is to get scouted? Some people are just trying to hold on. I get it. But if you're an 18, 19, 20-year-old player, isn't your goal to get scouted? And think about what we're talking about with, this team, Michiana. Imagine being a player and you see this clip comes out and you're considering going there. Do you think twice? Because you're like, I don't want to have a bad game and then suddenly I'm being told that they're going to call Eric on me. Like, no, I would not want to be a part of that. That's not a culture I want to be a part of. And if this is the one clip that goes viral, imagine if there was a club that was kind of interested in me taking me on loan, and then they just see that the commentator is just talking so much trash about me that maybe they think there's something going on behind the scenes. Maybe I don't train well. And now that you're off their list because one guy went rogue. And yes, Alan, like you said, mistakes happen. They absolutely happen. And it'd be a little bit different, I think, if they didn't have these other issues going on behind the scenes as well. This doesn't feel as much of a mistake as it does a symptom to a bigger issue. But yeah. Can I just have a quick rant about something real fast? I know we have some social media admins in here who are in the chat, so don't hate me too much. I really hated the USL Championship replying to the guy and be like, we don't control any decisions. Like that was from Aaron J. And just like, I don't control any decisions or whatever. Because the snarky reply is kind of funny. Like, hey, admin, sign a person. And it's like, okay, I don't control roster decisions. Yeah. I think it's always kind of funny. And I think every admin kind of wants to make the joke at some point. But when it's genuine complaints and stuff, and your only way to, as a consumer, to talk to the producer of the thing that you're consuming is through social media, just to say, I don't make decisions, that's kind of crappy. And I'm sure as a moment, like, I'm not trying to say that the admin is a crappy person, that I hate them or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But like, it's just either let it go or just, hey, this is a thing that has been popping up a lot. Higher management, this complaint's been coming up a lot. Maybe you should know it. I don't know. It felt really weird.
Yeah, I think in general, like a good rule there is just don't reply. I think like we're well past the like snarky reply being funny. Like I think it used to be at a certain point there was like oh, the brands are like fighting back, but I think in general, like I think in general it's just not it's not a great look. And I get where social media admins have an incredibly difficult job. Like I think that is worth acknowledging. Like they're sort of never off. They're expected to like be engaging, be funny, manage a brand, manage like customer service. Like they're being asked to do a lot. And like I think in general, when you're running an account like that, like just don't hit send tweet. Like there's no reason for it.
Yeah, and particularly within, I guess, sports brands on Twitter in general, that's just such a challenging account to manage because you're dealing with so many different stakeholders. You have a certain marketing scheme that the club or organization will want you to push. You have to fit within the wider context of your league. You have to be really in tune with the fan base. And you also have to understand that there are going to be people in the fan base who, regardless of whatever you post, someone is always going to be upset with you online. And it's more about just kind of ignoring that and not really responding or engaging with it. Like, even if you look at it from like if the Premier League was responding to people on Twitter, or that would immediately go to the front page of r/soccer on Reddit, and it would be a huge news story that the league would then have to publish a statement from. It's a challenging job, and honestly they could teach entire case study in college courses about how Wendy's and their snarkiness had basically transformed all of brand Twitter and how it's why it is today.
I think the funny thing about that is some of those brand responses like aren't actually the brand responses. They're like people like pretending to be the brands who are responding, but the brand gets credit for it. But I mean, can we just it's a Simpsons joke. Okay, sure. But also like maybe like a handwritten letter next time to the league office instead. Like, I mean, think about how many letters they get versus how many notifications they get. Like, if you really want to get noticed, like a nice handwritten letter to the office registering your complaints. Maybe you can show up and nail it to the wall. Like we can go old school, like Luther. Like let's do that instead because that's probably more effective than complaining to the admin of the USL Championship. But I get it. Like people need to lash out because they're upset about something. And social media is the place for people to like yell into the void a la Garden State. But yeah, sometimes you just got to let people yell. And in my profession, it's like, hey, do you need my help or you just need to vent? Like, tell me ahead of time what kind of conversation we're having. Because like when it's venting, like just go for it, buddy. Like just let it all out. Tell me how terrible your principal is or whatever. Like let's just get it out. I'm here. Let's listen. Let's get it. And so some of it as I'm sure the admin is like, just let them yell. It's fine. But maybe we can, as sports watchers, not washers, that's a different thing, but sports watchers, we can think about like before hitting that send button, know that there's a human being on the other side that has absolutely zero control and probably feels the way you feel about it. They just can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I guess my thing is not like admin bad, because like the biggest thing I think we try to do on this show is like the admin are human, right? I feel like we do talk about that a lot, and it's one of the things that I'm really proud of what we do here at the USL show is of humanizing the players as well, because we are unapologetically pro player in almost everything we do. Like that's something I'm very happy with. But it's one of those things of the snarky tweet. I mean, at some point, I'm sure it's still my favorite like memes ever on Twitter is the crab with the silence brand.
I was just gonna say, Kaylor, I was just gonna say, like, if you're ever feeling upset about something a brand like an admin posts, just hit them with the silence brand crab laser meme, and you're good.
Like, it's one of those things, but also like, kind of what you're saying, Alan. They do have to put up with so much, man. Like the amount of times that, you talk to someone, eventually, if you're around the industry long enough, you talk to several of the admins and they're just like, what, what am I word this? Like, I'm just got to turn off the phone. Like, I don't want to read the replies because a lot of the stuff, even though they are not the coach, they are not the sporting director, they are not anything to be involved, like the meme says, they feel responsible because they're the ones getting the tweets. They're the ones getting the mean messages. They're the ones getting the mean DMs and stuff like that, not the people who make the decisions. At the same time, probably keep that one in the chamber. Just don't fire that one off. No. Anyway, anything else on that? Nope. Okay. Tim Way bought into Brooklyn FC's ownership group, which again, Super League are doing things. Dan Vaughn kind of talked today about how the Trinity have 3/4 of their roster construction done. They have their head coach in ready to go, how they already have a idea of what kind of systems, what kind of approach to the game that they want to do, which this is nothing against Dan Vaughn at all, but we want to have a free-flowing attacking offense. I feel like everybody says that. I feel like most people, when they get hired, don't say we're going to park the bus. We might score a goal every 3 games. Like, I don't think anybody normally wants to come out and say that. High flying attack is usually the best way to get on fans' good side. I don't know. But in general, Super League are doing things, and that's kind of been the message from the Super League for the last month now, is that they're doing things, because it's still a news story, because for about 6 months they weren't doing anything. So now that we're getting everything all at once, it's pretty cool.
Brooklyn FC, like, in general, if Queensboro died for this, it was worth it. Like, Queensboro never got off the ground. We're never really serious. We're essentially a youth team, but promised a lot and delivered precious little. I think this from Brooklyn FC, they've got a stadium site identified on Coney Island. Like, they've got men's and women's team. Like, I think this is it just feels like a step in the right direction from the league, and having a serious team in New York is a big step in the right direction. Not to mention a team in the suburbs in League One in a couple of years. So yeah, big moves in the New York City metro.
And especially coming to bring in a player from the United States men's national team to buy into the project. As you saw from the press releases, he wasn't just buying into the men's scene, he was buying into the women's scene. He was buying into the entire organization, coming from a player who's called Brooklyn home for a good portion of his life. And now he's playing abroad over with Juventus, having just won an Italian Cup with them. Even though the press statements didn't say what percentage stake that he was buying into the team, the fact that he's buying into the full project, to the full idea, is just an impressive, it's a really impressive ownership stake for this team and for USL.
I think in general, having the Super League around has been nice. Speaking of broadcasts, though, what is the deal with that? Because we're running up on deadlines here. Like, I know we have until August, but also August is 2-3 months away. Like, we had their inaugural matches announced, which is awesome. But where can we watch them if we're not in those cities? I know there's still a lot of stuff that's probably already done that they're waiting to announce, because that's how all these things always go. But if y'all remember, think about back in, January, maybe December, when everybody's like, oh my God, the championship doesn't have a home, League One doesn't have a home. We're freaking out. We're freaking out. We're freaking out. Are we going back to YouTube? Are we back with the Brazilian better chat? Which some of us kind of want to go back to the simpler days. I don't know. But, there's a lot of stuff there that causes people to freak out. And as we get a little bit closer every single day, I'm starting to join the group.
I think NWSL fans are laughing, going like it's like that meme where it's like, "Is this your first time?" Because it's always a bit with NWSL with their schedule, right? It was like, "Hey, we're gonna be playing sometime, so get your season tickets. There's games coming." I mean, I think there's a little bit of that. I think it's it's one of those, maybe you're trying to get the best deal you can before you announce it. We know that NBA is renegotiating stuff, so I'm sure these like broadcasters are like, we're gonna put you off to the side because we have these other things to deal with. But there is, for some reason, I shouldn't say some reason, there seems to be a reluctance to invest in women's sports, and so I think the Super League is dealing with some of those similar issues that a lot of women's sports are dealing with, is the lack of imagination in investing in women's sports, because when you invest, people will show up and watch. So I'm not really that worried that there'll be a place to watch games. I'm just worried about the ability for the teams to put together quality broadcasts in a short amount of time. Like, who's doing it? Do they have the infrastructure set up? Not necessarily where they're going to end up. Because, I mean, if they're on ESPN Plus, then great. If they're on CBS, then also great. If they're on YouTube, like, people are going to watch. Like, I'm more worried about the infrastructure than necessarily what streaming service am I going to pay $5 more per month, to be way more than cable at this point, to watch some good USL
Super League to Apple TV.
I mean, if that's where the Open Cup is.
That's where the Open Cup is as soon as an MLS team is in every game. Anyways.
That's a whole nother conversation, people. Just real fast, the Transfer Marked US just released their USL market values. Just some interesting stuff that it really kind of means nothing, but also sort of means something. I know that is just a whole bunch of like nothingness, but a lot of it's based off algorithms and just kind of how does the industry generally feel about these players like them. So if you want to check out how some of these players have grown or dropped throughout the USL market, Transfer Marked put out their market values, which usually they're kind of just based on past history and all that kind of stuff. And, but it's still interesting to look through because you can totally hang it over your biggest rival's head of, we have 3 players that are in the top 15 and you have none. You must be poor. That's always a fun time to do. So, yeah. Let's go
ahead.
If
one of those players are sold for below that market value, please, where to direct your anger at now with Transfer Market.
At USL Championship.
And we get the same Simpsons meme of we don't sell players. I mean, can we just go ahead and refer back to this whenever Nate Worth is sold and just tag FC Tulsa and be like, you've done this. This is your fault. Whatever. Let's go ahead and get into talking about some matches. Let's first off start off with the drunkest of the drunk, a true shot at glory, and Chattanooga versus Lexington, 2 teams that really just haven't gotten off the ground in league play this year. Signs of hope throughout the year, but not fully gone. And they fully go for it in the Jagermeister. And I kind of talked about at the beginning of the show. These teams play different in the Jagermeister Cup. I don't know if it's because they want to avoid penalties. I don't know what it is, but they go for it. And Lexington thrives off Jager. It sounds like a 21-year-old Kaler. And it is a 4-3 win for Lexington. And just outright, Cameron Lancaster, gets the game-winning goal. He's one of the players that has dropped down from the championship to League One. and has taken it very seriously. And I've kind of talked about this before. We see this a lot, and players don't take it seriously. How many times have we seen a championship player go to League One who is an established championship player, and we're just kind of like, they think that it's easier than it is. They think that they drop down to the third division in the US, that they can just cakewalk everybody, and they don't. Cameron Lancaster is honestly looks like he's trying harder than he has in the last few years. And he was still pretty good for Lou City, 4-3 win. Lexington can't stop taking shots of glory. Chattanooga, puts up one of their best performances of the year, maybe not defensively, but they probably feel hard done by to not walk away with a win.
Yeah, I thought, I think in general, like Lexington, make no mistake, could have had 10, I think, in this game. Like they were through on it literally felt like they were through on goal about once every like 4.5 minutes. And it was crazy. Totally end-to-end track meet, midfield just not involved in the game. Like the ball went wide, the ball went in behind, and that like rinse and repeat at both ends of the field. But this is also, I think, like what you're referring to, Kaylor, like this is the beauty of this League Cup, if you want to refer to it that way. Like the Jägermeister is a chance for these teams to play a little bit freer, sort of treat it as just everybody gets to have a go. Teams get rotated a little bit, not a ton, because they still definitely respect the competition. But I think it's just fun. That being said, I don't think either coach is going to feel great about how their team's defended. And yeah, probably a better one for the neutrals than anyone else. But I do think the red card obviously changes things a little bit in terms of Lexington being able to push in the closing stages for the equalizer. But I mean, absolutely crazy for them to get 2 goals in stoppage time to win it. I mean, that is the sort of thing that you beg for in a cup competition like this. And as a neutral, absolute joy to watch. But yeah, I think the questions remain for both teams. Lexington will definitely feel better having won, but not a glowing defensive performance. And I think a lot of question marks still about Lexington putting together a complete 90 minutes and putting away, I know this sounds insane, they scored 4 goals, but putting away more of their clear-cut chances, because this one could have been well out of sight like early on, and they actually let Chattanooga hang around a little bit.
I mean, this was 20 shots from Lexington in this match, and Cameron Lancaster had 40% of the shots in this game. It was really a performance that we expected from Lexington. And like Michael was saying, coming into this season, and definitely a fun match to watch for the neutrals. You would want to see these cup competition games really kind of bring your team kind of form back into at least back into its top form once you return to league play. Treat these games as something fun, something to start testing out new formations, testing out new players, and then hope that a victory in the cup can actually spur you on for the rest of the season, especially with Lexington going up against a very good Forward Madison team this weekend. But honestly, if you're going to look at any of these cup matches, I mean, in 3 of the 5 games this week had both teams to score, and those 3 of the 5 games all had over 2.5 goals.
It was like a home run derby mixed with the Catalina wine mixer. Because it was just like long balls for days, which is weird because some of the goals came from some really nice build-up play, but then they would just be like, they would like build it out of the back, and they would just like, nope, we're kicking it. One of the guys like, no, I'm kicking along, and then like build out of the back, and then nope, I'm kicking it along. I'm just gonna go for it. And now, to be fair, that red card does come from a long ball over the top that gets pulled down, and so there was some like positive from it, but there was so much to be happy when they decided to like actually build through the middle and build up and put together some pretty good play. But then I was just giggling because I was watching this on like 1.75 speed, and that it was insane. It was just like 3 passes, long ball, 3 passes, and so all you need is one of those to hit. But it just felt like so wasteful at times just to be trying to hit a home run, trying to hit a home run. It's like, guys, just if you get some singles, you hit some doubles, like that's how you score runs. You don't have to go for the long ball every day. But yeah, this was a pretty fun, and again, to watch it at almost double speed, this is a pretty fun match. And I would recommend, if you want to watch this back, do it at 1.75 speed.
I was going to say, watching at that speed, it had to feel like yakety sax needed to be playing in the background. Just
That's exactly what I was pulling up. I was trying to figure out how to put it yakety sax over. Something about the Jägermeister I think is really interesting. And we talked about this last year, maybe 2 years ago as well. League One always seems to have a good showing in the US Open Cup, right? But one of the things that they always kind of do is you notice the teams that are really good defensively are the ones that go really far in the US Open Cup, because they can usually hold a team to 1 goal, 0 goals, make it depends, extra time, whatever, and they win that way. And then we talked about how those teams were not exactly doing too well in League One, especially last year, because offense was king in the league. This year, it is just all goals in the Jägermeister, to the point that, and I understand that they're in the Central, East, and West divisions, so things are a little skewed in that sense. But like Lexington's sitting at the top, right, with 8 points. They are attacking like crazy. I mean, 7 goals from 3 matches. I mean, I don't have it in front of me. I'm assuming that's better than what they're doing in the league. Richmond Kickers are in second, and yes, and they're on 5 points through 3 matches. Guess what? In League One, they're also on 5 points. We're looking at Northern Colorado, who has 4 points in the league, has 6 points in the Jägermeister. And Union Omaha sitting in last place in the West. And I just can't help but wonder if certain play styles are just lending themselves to these different competitions, because last year in League One, super attacking teams, and 2 years ago too, super attacking teams, that was what was winning the league. And then, these defensive teams who are just really good at grinding out results, they were the ones that were pushing through the US Open Cup. It really feels like the Jägermeister has pulled out a different style of play, which has pulled out different squads that can succeed, which is really, really fun. Which makes me, this is for next year or whenever the USL Championship gets involved. This is about to be an insane request. I would like to see us stay in group stage. I think that the full send, go to PKs, let it be a track meet has led to such a fun product that if it just became another knockout like the Carabao in England and stuff like that, it just wouldn't be the same. It would just be US Open Cup Part 2, but worse. I think staying in these group stages and going straight to pins is a blast, and it leads to fun attacking play that teams can market very well.
I've already added the USL Championship admin about it, so we're good. We're good.
Appreciate it.
Job done.
And not to mention, with the expanded competition, it would make for at least a little bit more balanced, taking teams from knockouts. As it stands with a group stage of 3 teams, someone's going to be kind of left out in the cold. It's almost pretty much inevitable that someone's going to be undeserved and left out of going into knockouts with this competition. If you expand it to have as many teams USL 1's going to be adding over the next few seasons with the current crop of USL Championship teams, you'd have a lot of really intriguing group stages there. You could mix it up. You could do it regionally, and it would still be balanced coming out of that for as many teams coming into the knockout stage.
Also, just getting people in other cities accustomed to League One, I think would be so important for championship fans. Because how many times have we seen a championship team sign a League One player and they'd be like, meh, it's a former League One player. We don't know anything about them, and they're a world beater. And I mean, Trevor Amon, everybody kind of knew who he was. That was a little bit different. And, we knew Rogers. But how many Tulsa fans didn't know about Arthur Rogers? that are finding out just how good he is because they had no exposure to League One. And that's the beauty of what this competition can and probably will be in the future. I think the stay in the group stage will just be a home run. Let's move on from this, and I want to talk a little. El Paso. Phil, I want you just to have a little bit of time. This is a bad admin bashing day. I'm just going to throw it out there. The "don't count us out" tweet, despite being up a man for 45 minutes, was wild. But in all seriousness, no, you go and play Charleston and win, even up a man. That is no small feat. The Wilmer Cabrera, appointment looks great already. And this, Amando guy, where have y'all been hiding him? What? I mean, he's been starting, but like, what's been going on here? This already looks like such a transformated team.
Yeah, I mean, the couple of things I'll mention is, one, yeah, the red card definitely changes things, and there is a bit of Chris Allen not easily like brought into these like yellow or red card situations. I think like he's they have done him a little bit in terms of it was an absolutely brutal challenge on Liam Rose, and he probably could have gone for the first one, and it felt like justice served like when he did get sent off for the tackle a couple of minutes later. All that being said, this Locomotive team has been given confidence first and foremost, and I think you could just see that players they trusted themselves a little bit more to play their game and to play the way that they know how. So I think that's step one of sort of the easy part of Wilmer's job coming in, is giving back really good soccer players confidence in the fact that they are good, right? That was his first job. And he even talked in his opening press conference about how like getting their heads right is first, and like the feet will follow, essentially. And so he knew he needed to give the team confidence, and it's clear that he's done that. And this is still like a deeply flawed team that is like going to be going through some growing together. Because there were a lot of opportunities where Charleston easily could have won this. Some brave defending, some not so good playing out from the back from El Paso at times, but it was extremely refreshing just to see the players believe that they could hang with one of the best teams in the league and then do it, right? Like that is, regardless of everything else that went on in the match, the team believed that they could. And when Charleston come back and equalize, we've seen this Locomotive team so far this season, pretty much when that happens, they implode. Like, stoppage time against New Mexico, giving up 2 goals to lose from 2-1 up. Oakland Roots scoring a couple of times to win 3-2 from 2-1 up. So there's enough examples of this team like mentally not hanging in there. And in Charleston, like at Patriots Point, coming away with all 3 points, despite the fact that Charleston get the equalizer a few minutes from full time. Like, I know they were down to 10, but I think it'll still be a big confidence boost, and it is a perfect start to the Wilmer Cabrera era.
I'm just glad to hear Wilmer Cabrera is a big fan of In Vogue with that "Free Your Mind and the Rest Will Follow" bit. That's a good shout.
It is worth mentioning that I had this said a few articles ago, through all of last season, whenever a team had parted ways with the manager through a sacking or a firing, none of those teams won their immediate first match after that was played. So the new manager bounce is officially back on the table with this El Paso victory.
Which is kind of crazy because I am full on new manager bounce is real and infallible. So the fact that it wasn't before. Thank goodness that betting wasn't around me, because I've been losing a lot of money then, because I would have just been hammering everything on that team winning. Let's go ahead. I want to go to the USL Tactics show for this week, which was North Carolina, which was a ton of fun. Even though John is not here, let's go ahead and hear his beautiful voice for about 2 minutes. Maybe. Possibly. There's a chance.
In a huge offensive outburst, North Carolina FC beat Miami 4-0 this Saturday night, and they did so in spite of a really high 4-2-4 press from the hosts. Luis Perez and Ezra Armstrong on the left side were ultimately the factor that made a difference. So let's dig into what happened to activate those two on the left. Here you're seeing North Carolina building out amidst that shape. You're noticing that Miami is able to send a winger, get the support of a center mid, and generally make life difficult in compact space down the flank. North Carolina doesn't advance here. Overall, though, the trend was different. Here you're seeing the heat map of Luis Perez and Ezra Armstrong on that flank. You'll notice that there was quite a bit of activity down low, and here you're going to see those two in action. This actually starts with the defensive intervention from Armstrong, but his combination play with Perez, their ability to draw the defense up and activate the speed of players like Olex Anderson and Evan Conway downfield, was vital for North Carolina's attack. No matter the phase of play, Armstrong and Perez had this give and take sensibility. Even if Perez drifted to the other side of the field, there was intention behind it. He was drawing the defense his way, opening up the other side of the pitch for Armstrong, who, for my taste, has probably been the best left back in the entire USL this season. North Carolina is a team that struggled at times to create chances, to work past teams and really find their footing offensively, but the combination play against Miami was simply outrageously good. Here it's Armstrong on the overlap, drawing a defender, and ultimately buying just that one bit of space for Perez to find a crossing angle to get that chance inside of the box. It's a very simple play, it's very well finished, but it defines their combination so well. This is the heart of North Carolina at their best. They defend well in the 3-4-3, and they're able to activate their star players, the ones who define their attack, in the most dangerous areas of the pitch. Armstrong and Perez's interaction is what makes North Carolina so promising this season.
And this is a North Carolina team that I was very bullish on, and said that they were going to be a home playoff team very easily. I was more bought into the North Carolina vision than I was Rhode Island. And there was a while where, I was not seeing the fruits of that labor. And obviously North Carolina was not seeing the fruits of that. And now that they are, granted, this was against a Miami team that was starting an academy goalkeeper, but they did hold a clean sheet for 50 minutes. But 4 goals in 30 minutes is nothing to scoff at if you're North Carolina. Defensively, they didn't really have to deal with too much. But offensively, they finally exploded the way that we could. And, John mentions Armstrong, but in general, it just felt like the entire team was finally clicking like we thought they would preseason.
I mean, you don't have Messi, so that's a huge detractor for Miami in this one.
He was in Vancouver.
Actually, he wasn't.
He was
my favorite part of this is I didn't write down who said it. One of the guys calling the game was like 1-0, might as well be 4-0. And like North Carolina was like, someone called down from the press box and said, hey, it should be 4-0, and they took care of it. So
they called Eric.
They called Eric and got it handled. But I was like, I knew the score back when I watched this one back. I knew the score ahead of time, and I just giggled when he said that, because I mean that was the point. It was Miami had a couple decent looks here and there, but they never really felt like they were going to do any damage. They might have been able to pull one back, but I thought there were some pretty nice goals and the one from the corner kick, like that was the kind of night Miami was having, was, misjudged ball from the goalkeeper ends up in the back of your net. And it's just like, all right, that's what game we're playing tonight. And all right, we're going to have to turn the page on this one for Miami, although I have a feeling they're going to be turning lots of pages this season because they don't look like they're quite put together.
I just want to ask the question: when's the last time a manager has said we've kept the receipts? We saw what people said and it worked out for them.
Yeah, I don't I don't know. I was gonna say, and I've been debating whether to, but I'm just gonna say it. So North Carolina, obviously a really good result, but is it a coincidence that North Carolina, champions of League One last year, really hit their stride this year against League One opposition?
I think they would get destroyed in League One. I think Miami would get destroyed in League One. I really do. They started off hot and then they just. Sorry, my cat is. What are you doing?
If you want,
yeah.
If you want an interesting stat from this, despite how well North Carolina did last season, you still have to go all the way back to their 2021 season in USL 1 to find the last time they beat a team 4-0.
Who was it?
Against Richmond on July 21st, 2021.
Wow.
League
That
One.
2021 Richmond team was pretty good too, right? They won Player Shield. Or was that 2022? Whatever. It's all blending together. Also, Vermont Green. If you haven't been seeing the crowds that Vermont Green's been getting, it's been awesome. Absolutely love it. What is... Sorry, my cat is absolutely just going at the toilet paper for some reason. Just really just biting the crap out of it. Stop it, stupid. Come on. But anyway, I want to talk about another team who has really been blowing my mind just real fast. I want to talk about New Mexico. And Phil, you just wrote about Greg Hurst, but I do want to just say, like, I've said this multiple times. I've said that Greg Hurst was back after his first goal against Pitt. Last year, his first goal, he would have squandered it. If we're being brutally honest, he would have saw that opportunity and have the ball kind of come off his foot just a little bit, didn't dribble it perfectly, and just probably would have hit into the side netting, finishes it. And if that isn't just a depiction of how much this New Mexico team has turned the corner, because there was a while where they had an insane striking group and they just never quite put it together. This year, it feels like they finally put it together, not just a couple of matches. It feels like a complete team.
Yeah. I mean, we've been really complimentary all season of Zico Bailey and Marco Micheletto, and I think Jacobo Reyes and a couple of other players, Nicky Hernandez, have kind of like got some praise, but Greg Hurst, like quietly 5 goals in 10, and just like in general looks every bit the confident player that I think we expected to sort of burst on the scene. And it was funny because this performance, obviously from Hurst, like a big highlight, but yeah, John writing about Greg Hurst and his back four today as well. So make sure you check out John at USL Tactics on Substack for that one. But his Hurst, when he's confident, I think it's clear that the move to Phoenix and then the subsequent move to New Mexico, it's just taken a little bit of time for him to find his footing in this league. But he, not just from a like taking his chances perspective, because obviously on the goal, it's instinctive, hits it sweetly on the volley. Like you won't see many better strikes of the ball this year, just in terms of pure technique. And that is just the sign of a confident player. I think you add in it doesn't count as an assist, even though everybody in the world probably thinks that it should, where he just absolutely smokes his man like out wide in the on the edge of the area, gets to the byline. Really great close control to go past him and get to the end line, and then cross back. The deflection obviously takes it into Husu's path, but all in all, like just a confident performance from a confident player. And I think Hurst hitting his stride is the thing that when people are like, how are New Mexico first, right? Because it's just kind of caught everybody out. It's like, that is the sort of player that can elevate you from being like in the middle of the pack to being a contender at the very top of the league.
I mean, we're looking at a New Mexico team right now who have 2 separate 3-game winning streaks in the league. At this time, they've won their last 3 games by a score of 2-1, and they're going up against a Monterey Bay team who is just absolutely is not a side that they don't want to be playing New Mexico this week, just given how Monterey Bay are now winless in their last 5. New Mexico, Phil, you had mentioned just being a top Western Conference right now, has Monterey Bay, Hartford, Memphis, Colorado Springs as their next 4 games. And there could be a very good opportunity to continue to really build upon that lead that they have currently over Sacramento, who, though are unbeaten, have drawn their last 3 games.
Also, one thing, and I've been super critical of him in the past, Sam Bacchus has had a fantastic year. An absolutely fantastic year. Last year, I was calling for his head, saying that Ford Parker need to start over him, that he was past it. This year seems to be there. And I can't help but wonder if maybe like just kind of roles have changed. It doesn't feel like he's having to play with the ball at his feet as much as he did last year. And maybe this is completely jaded and I'm completely wrong on that, but that's just kind of the vibe I got. And it seems like they've let him just be more of the natural shot stopper that he is. I think that has also been a massive part of this season has been Sam Bacchus has really taken a step forward back to when he first went out to Albuquerque.
I think everyone's just missing the elephant in the room here is San Diego no longer exists and New Mexico couldn't beat San Diego. And so now that San Diego's gone, they can like win more games. So I think that's really what it boils down to. I mean, all the other stuff too, like really smart analysis, but also, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's simple as that.
Yeah, that's math. Let's go ahead and get into some predictions. I'm sorry, Memphis. We were going to talk about you and your really, really nice win over Pittsburgh. But this sounds maybe I can't believe I'm saying this. This year, it's kind of Pittsburgh. It has nothing to do with you, Memphis. It has everything to do with who you beat.
Kaylor just doesn't want to talk about former Legion players scoring for Memphis.
I love Marlon Santos. I absolutely love that guy. He's the best. No, I mean, I would not mind ranting and raving about, the guys that are over there, because rivalries aside, this Memphis team's so much fun, but this Pittsburgh team is kind of bad. So good team beats bad team.
Admin has an agenda.
Agenda. The bias is real. Let's go ahead and get into some predictions, and let's go ahead and start off with what I thought was going to be the second most toxic Twitter space, which might actually turn out to be the most toxic Twitter space. Louisville versus Detroit. A very good Detroit team taking on a very good Louisville team, both with very active fan bases online. I thought that Detroit versus Phoenix was going to be toxic because, I mean, Phoenix fans do love to run the streets out on Twitter, but I feel like this is going to be another level with how the playoff game went and everything else. How do we think this one's going to go, Alan?
Well, I think your instinct is correct because Louisville versus Detroit has their fan bases, plus Phoenix is just going to insert themselves into this discussion and then like the 20 whatever FC Cincinnati fans are just going to appear just out of the woodwork just to pile it on. I picked Lou City, but I didn't feel great about it. I think that Detroit's a pretty tough team to get by, but I just really like Lou City these days, so I went with them.
Ryan?
Yeah, I've picked Louisville in this one. Detroit is still a very tough and frustrating team to play against, but you're looking at a Detroit City team who's come off of 3 matches without a win right now, and Louisville haven't lost at home this season at any point, and that's a streak dating back to last season of 6 in a row. Louisville at Lynn Family Stadium is just another beast entirely, and I think Louisville just barely gets the job done.
Bill?
Yeah, I have Louisville in this one. I think depth might just be catching up to Detroit through the Open Cup. Like, they obviously go 120 minutes against Houston, then they get smacked by Indy. I think like they have a really, really good first set of players, and then the drop off is a little bit steep in terms of who they can bring in. And I think Louisville just has a little bit more in the tank in terms of being able to supplement their regular first team. And I think really the difference is going to be made in the wide areas in this one. Fullbacks are going to be really, really important for both sides, but I think Lou City at home is just a little bit too strong. They've scored goals there for fun this season, and they're coming off of a couple of weird draws with Vegas and Rhode Island, so I think they come back and they do get past Detroit. Not easily, but I do think they get past them.
I agree that the wing play is going to be really important for this game, but also depending on where he plays, like Levis, Amamensa, like those guys, like I would trust them with my life out on the fullback, you know? I mean, Matt Sheldon's been okay for Detroit, but when you are talking about a seasoned USL player being kind of the backup option, I think you are very happy with that. Also, I can't quit Maxi Rodriguez. Like, I just can't quit him. I just assume he's always just going to score the goal, and I just do. I'm taking Detroit. Maybe I'm just a Detroit truther. Maybe they have brainwashed me. Maybe I'm just afraid of them. I don't know, but I really believe in what this Detroit project is. That's not saying that Lou City is just going to lay down and let Detroit do whatever, but I really believe in what Detroit's doing.
Kaler is NGS confirmed.
I'm so many admins. It's ridiculous. Next up, we have into the Cabrera era versus one of the longest standing coaches in the league in Tommy Sohn. El Paso takes on Birmingham. El Paso gets a very, very big win in the new era, but Birmingham go into the den of the indomitable and walk away with a point, a very chippy point at that. Both teams probably say they should have walked away with all 3, which probably means that both teams should be happy that they walked away with 1. So pretty decent form that Birmingham are in. El Paso finally turning it around. Alan, who you got?
El Paso, because why not? Like, at this point of the season, just why not? Like, the past couple weeks, my picks have not been great because I felt like I was really confident, and now I'm just not confident at all. And so I just was first instinct, I'm gonna go, and I went El Paso.
That's fair. Ryan.
Birmingham's on a really weird pattern that I just found just kind of looking at their form. So dating back to their last 6 games against that they've had in the league starting on April 20th, they won, lost, and drew, and then won, lost, and drew in that same order and in that time. So for following that pattern, they would be winning this match against El Paso. However, I feel like the Cabrera era is at least starting out on a good foot, and El Paso is going to look to try and get a first home win since they've had since the middle of last season. And if they win this one, it will be their first time winning back-to-back games since this time last year in 2023, when they also beat Birmingham at home or in that time. So I'm backing El Paso on this one.
Yeah, that was when Clear Out ruined my wedding. So thanks a lot, Brian. Phil?
That was quite the inflection point, because I legit after that Legion game I was like, man, we're one of the best teams in the league. That's so crazy. Yeah, it all went downhill from there. So no, I think I have this one as a draw. I think Locomotive do look better. They definitely did not look perfect against Charleston. Seeing players confident again is great. And I think they have a big hill to climb in terms of building up any sort of confidence in front of the home crowd, because like Ryan alluded to, they have been awful at home for a year. And I think a draw, it just feels on the cards, because Birmingham know how to frustrate. Like throughout any of these big games, even in some of the losses, like they've been able to put on a really good, just a stifling performance, if nothing else, that Open Cup game notwithstanding. So yeah, I think in general they've frustrated some really good teams recently, including Tampa, Charleston, and Sacramento. So yeah, I think El Paso will struggle offensively in this one, and we could be in for a pretty boring game out west, I think.
Legion are really, really good at creating chances, but they're not very good at converting them. So it may be the most entertaining 0-0 draw you've ever seen, because both teams, I think, are just going to take wild shots all night long and just be like, well, no one came close to scoring, but we had an absolute blast while doing it. So
there's going to be like 30 shots each with a XG of like 0.4, I think. Is what you're explaining.
Maybe the real goals were the friends we made along the way.
The score is fun to fun.
In all reality, though, I think that Legion discovering that Jake Roof is a CDM at heart, despite being a fullback and center back for all of his professional career, has been very much game changing. We'll find out if he is available for the match, because I have a feeling that his yellow card might get turned into a red after the altercation in Sacramento. But if he's not, I think that is a massive game changer, and that would maybe sway me to El Paso's side. But I also think that you talk about having that confidence in El Paso, and I have confidence after what I saw with Charleston, a depleted, tired Charleston, yes, but still Charleston away. You don't just go and win those matches, especially not this last year's El Paso. Getting that wins brand new confidence. I'm taking El Paso. Next up, we got the Northeast, whatever they're calling it, derby, because the supporters had a name and then the teams had a name and people are mad about it. So the up there somewhere derby, Hartford versus Rhode Island. Hartford gets a win and they're finally back into looking pretty good. And Rhode Island just refuses to win. They see a match and they say, I want to share this with you. They have learned too much of sharing is caring, and they want to draw everything. I think the safest thing would be to say a draw. What do you say, Alan?
I say my brain immediately went to American Tail and Somewhere Out There when you said that there. So I'm going to have that stuck in my head for the rest of the night. So thank you very much, Kaylor.
No problem.
Beneath the pale moonlight. I picked Rhode Island because, I mean, something's got to go right at some point for this team. The times I've been able to watch their matches, there's like moments that you could tell that there's like it's gonna happen for them. It's like the super nerdy ugly guy in like the typical high school movie where it's just like you keep rooting for him to happen and it just never quite happens, and then eventually it does. I'm hoping he has his Mikey's the big winner swingers moment where he gets to dance with the girl and have a nice conversation and get her number. That's what I'm hoping for Rhode Island, and that's why I picked Rhode Island. Plus, it's windy.
I think it's really hard to get over for Rhode Island to have 4 0-0 draws to start the year. I mean, credit to them that they're avoiding those defeats. I mean, 7 ties on the board is certainly nothing to turn your nose up at, especially weird considering that Hartford Athletic this year have 0 ties on the board. They're the ultimate Kaler team to try and predict. And I really think with a match like this, Hartford and Rhode Island are both going to take it really seriously, because if you're in Hartford's perspective, you do not want to lose this game. You cannot have your first rivalry match against Rhode Island be a match that you drop, because this is going to basically be a blemish on the rivalry for your perspective until the end of time. You can no longer say, hey, we're still better than Rhode Island if you start basically 0-1 here. I think given all of that, this match is probably going to end up going towards another draw.
Phil?
That's what I agree wholeheartedly. I think the draw is the most likely. It's crazy to say because Hartford, prior to beating Monterey this past weekend, had lost their previous 5 games by an aggregate score of 16-2. So, like, you'd think that this Hartford team is just like in a death spiral. They get out with a decent result at home to Monterey Bay. I think, I don't know. I still am not buying Hartford even after that result. I think Rhode Island is going to be the better side on the night. I think they're going to deserve to win. And I think just whatever sort of like curse is hanging over this team, I think they're going to be unfortunate to draw. But yeah, I think it is going to be a draw again.
I think a draw for the neutral is the most boring thing that could happen, considering that both big admin day, both admins are ready to post the reaction tweet on if they win. That they are just scratching and just itching to post the GIF. Like,
well, we saw you mentioned Locomotive's social media response to like winning the other night in Charleston, and you can tell when an admin is starved like for being able to post funny or good stuff, because and I know Locomotive's admin in real life, so like I'm not trying to like out the person or anything like that. But yeah, he went absolutely mad because it was like after that game, like there was an outpouring of emotion from admin as well, because he's just been chained up behind all these L's and just unleashed the memes.
I just think that there's a whole front of just motivations. And obviously, we kind of joke about the admins and stuff like that. But like, players see what's posted on socials. They do. And knowing that there's already been a little fire between the two clubs, it may not be actual locker room material, but it's in the back of the head. Like, we don't want to get the, was it the Ryan Gosling laughing emoji, or like laughing GIF? No one wants that. So it's just the little things that can motivate. That said, and this is a toxic thing for me. Until Rhode Island shows me that they can win, I can't pick them to win. Not saying that Hartford has filled me with the most confidence that they can win as well, but still, I am interested, Phil, because you are a common Burke post-game enjoyer. I wonder how their record is going to be post "We will sell you if you don't get it together." Because it feels like they have been playing a lot better since that press conference. And going into a rivalry game, especially one where there's a couple of players for Hartford that their former coach, Connor Smith, is on the other side, that they really want to win. because it's not just a win. It is former coach bragging rights. It is, I might get sold here or released. I don't know. I'm taking Hartford, and I'm not exactly sold on it, but I am taking Hartford. Let's do Sacramento versus Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, who had every single person possible in attendance for their last game. If you did not see all that, Best was there, Neil Collins was there, Randy Arozarena was there. Like an absolutely insane lineup of people who are there. So vibes are high. Vibes are also high for Sacramento, but they are going to be out without Russell Cicerone and Roro Lopez. One having lower leg. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was Achilles. The other one, Roro, who tore his ACL, which is just brutal. I was genuinely devastated when I saw it. Like it bummed me out. But there's also a weird thing that happens in sports where an emotional leader goes down and the team goes out and just starts stomping people because they have a newfound motivation, right? Kind of go baseball. The Braves did it a couple years ago. Ronald Acuna tears his ACL, and they go gangbusters for the rest of the year because they were motivated by him getting injured. It feels like that could happen for Sacramento, who, come off a very cagey 0-0 draw to Birmingham, and Tampa Bay finally looks like Tampa Bay again. How's this one going to go, Alan?
I picked Sacramento on this one, and I think the coin flip for me was this one's being played in Sacramento, correct? I looked at that correctly. Yeah, I think that's going to be the difference, is that travel and being East versus West. I don't think there's quite as big of a pressure on Tampa Bay to win this one. So maybe they don't go full bore against Sacramento, knowing they might face them later in a playoff situation. So, I think Sacramento has a lot to be happy with in their play, and they're always a tough team to play in Sacramento. And so I went with the travel having an effect on Tampa Bay and giving Sacramento just enough to get the edge.
Ryan?
Yeah, I've gone with Sacramento in this one as well. Not only is the team unbeaten to start the year, I mean, they're one of the best defenses in the league already to begin with. They've conceded just 8 goals on the year. I know Tampa Bay is in a top 4 team in the league right now in goals scored at 23. I just can't get over the fact that Sacramento was playing this match at home, like Alan had said. I think if you're dating this back to in just regular season games from last year, Sacramento is unbeaten in 9 consecutive home games in the regular season. And you have to go all the way back to the tail end of last year, or when Tampa Bay beat Tulsa to find the last road game they won that was west of the Mississippi River. I really think it is a challenge for this team to go cross country. Even if you look at it from this season, their only road win of the year is still within the state of Florida against a really bad, that we've already established, Miami team. I think all of that combined, I have to back Sacramento in this one.
I wasn't ready for a west of the Mississippi.
So I am going to sound boring because I feel like I've been picking draws for like every game, but I am picking a draw, and here's why. One, there's a better, based on Sacramento's results this year, there's a better than 50% chance that they draw. They have 5 wins and 6 draws despite being undefeated. There's something about the Sacramento team where I believe deeply in what they are doing, and I think they are truly, like, pound for pound, one of the best teams in the league. And there is something going on with this team, and maybe some of the stuff that's gone on, like, off field, will like snap them out of it. Like, maybe there will be a little bit of a galvanization, as they say. But like, there's something about the Sacramento team where they just never get out of first or second gear, and sometimes that is enough to win, and a lot of times this season it hasn't been, and they like sort of feel like they play down to the level of the team that they're playing. And Tampa is really good. And like, despite the travel, despite all that, Sacramento's gonna have to be like the best version of themselves to beat Tampa Bay, I think. And we could easily see that, but I'm going for another draw, especially with all the struggles that they're having in terms of injuries.
You kind of mentioned that. One thing that we mentioned on here a couple months ago, maybe it was just a month ago, I can't remember when the match was. Their rematch versus Orange County, that was the best game they played all year because, frankly, they got embarrassed off of a goalie scoring off a corner to draw the match. They got embarrassed, and by that, and then what they do in the return fixture, they slaughtered them. Like, we aren't going to let we're not going to let that happen again. And Kieran Phillips is disgustingly good. He has 100% go in him all the time. Pair that with a team that is motivated and wants to just go out there and just squash a team. I think that they could beat anybody in the USL 2-0 if they wanted to. Like, if they were genuinely motivated, and maybe, what's happened off the field is going to be what does it for them. Maybe that's what galvanizes the team. I have a simple rule. If Sacramento's at home, they're winning. It's worked out for me most of the time. You just don't go to Sacramento and win. And if you do, you are heralded as kind of a hero because that is a shocking result. So go do it, Tampa Bay. Like, I mean, it'd be a fun thing to see Tampa Bay fully put it together under Nielsen, because I don't fully believe in their project. I'm gonna be honest, but I don't know. But hey, Tampa Bay is also have an off the field leader who tore an ACL. I mean, Forrest Lasso goes down as well. It's gonna be interesting to see how they recover from that. But I am still taking Sacramento.
Kieran Phillips, quickly on loan from Huddersfield Town, the Terriers, and you said he has that go. He might literally have that dog in him.
Just what? How big of a dog is a Terrier? Pretty small, right?
It's a small dog.
Why don't we have like pit bull like mascots? You know what I mean? Why are they always like? I mean, bulldogs are cool, but they're tiny. Like, if you told me, hey, we're playing the Huddersfield Pit Bulls, I'd be a little bit more afraid.
The Mastiffs.
I forget Terriers are dogs until I'm watching the Westminster Dog Show.
I'm going to stick up for Terriers here because some of those small dogs that are bred for hunting, like, they will mess up. Like Jack Russells are meant to hunt like badgers. They are like no joke. So small they might be, but in a pinch to get like rats and badgers and such, I will take like a rat terrier, a Jack Russell, even maybe like a dachshund over a cat in hunting rats and mice. Like, some of those dogs are like better at it.
And we had a Cocker Spaniel growing up who was constantly like killing squirrels, and we were like, "You're such a sweet dog. Why are you doing that?" We always forget that Spaniels are hunting dogs. But
yeah, I had to stand up for the little puppies because
people really just were naming dog breeds like whatever. Like, Cocker Spaniel is the most insane thing to like see a creature and just be like Cocker Spaniel. That's insane.
Bulldog
Yorkshire Terrier.
Yeah, Yorkshire Terrier.
That's why Huddersfield's in West Yorkshire, so that's why they're the Terriers. That's
so
gotta have something to do with it.
Huddersfield Rat Catchers. That's what I'm calling them from now on.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a character from Suicide Squad.
If we somehow had an interview with Kieran Phillips and we said you're on loan from the Huddersfield Rat Catchers, what do you think he'd do? Do you think he'd just leave instantly?
I think he'd be confused.
He doesn't know the hish.
This entire conversation is just prompting John to have a 24 tweet thread that just pairs a USL team with a random dog breed.
USL championship teams as dog breeds. Go.
I guess what I am doing tomorrow, because I have nothing to do tomorrow. That is what I'm doing. Oh, okay. Anyway, I will I will think on that. Last one, Union Omaha versus Northern Colorado. Hey, if you were to take the Jägermeister standings, you would be a little confused on who is the favorite coming into this one. Northern Colorado, who has not fared too well in the league, but when it comes to taking a shot at glory, they seem to take it every single time. But Union Omaha is running League One. Don't tell Gio. So which version of Northern Colorado are we going to get? Which version of Union Omaha are we going to get? Are we going to get League One Union Omaha? Are we going to get Jägermeister Union Omaha? Are Northern Colorado going to keep pushing their fullbacks forward and saying you're our best goal scorers? Or are they going to try to go back more traditional? Let us know, Alan.
No.
Fair.
There's a couple guys on Northern Colorado, Yamazaki, in that
So
Jägermeister
good.
Cup. Like he's just, again, watching this one at 1.75 speed. He's like up and back, both sides of the ball, super involved offensively, super involved defensively. I really like his look. I think he can create some problems. And then the other name from Northern Colorado I needed to shout out was like, you know, when like they put out the name a random USL player and everyone goes to like the normal names or like the weird names. Like Noah Powder is a name that is like designed for that, like name a random USL player. Because that is a guy, like if you went back through his history, like the really good Red Bull 2, he won the cup again with Real, whatever they're called these days.
Monarchs.
There you go. They left the league, so they're not important. Both of them did. But like this is a guy who's been on some pretty amazing squads, and he's still doing his thing in Colorado. But I just don't think they have quite enough to take on Omaha. I went with Omaha. I think this was my lock of the week because I just hated all of the other matchups because they could literally go either way.
Ryan?
Noah Powder would be a tremendous name if we ever created a USL Immaculate Grid. Like just for having that versatility, he'd be an excellent addition for it. But yeah, I think Union Omaha, it really comes down to this match is they're playing it at home. If you go back through all the games that they've played this season at home, they haven't lost. I mean the last time that a team that they actually lost to at home was North Carolina at the start of last season. Yes, Charlotte technically beat Omaha on penalties in the playoffs, but that was still 0-0 after 120 minutes. Omaha at home are just a it was Madison at the first half of last season that beat Omaha, but at home, they're still a very tough team to break down, and that's why I'm backing them for this game.
Yeah, I locked Omaha as well. Misael Rodriguez is off to just a lightning start in the league, but Dolabella, Gallardo, Lagos Kunga, they have so many ways to score, so many routes to goal, and that's even without mentioning like Josue Aron Gomez, who obviously great goal scorer at a championship level. I think all in all, like this Omaha team is just put together extremely well. Dominic Casciato has them cooking, and while they do mess around a little bit in the Jägermeister, in the league they've been nothing but business, and their last 2 league games they scored 4 goals. I think they narrowly lost in heartbreaking fashion to Sporting Kansas City, and arguably were the better team like at periods on the night against MLS opposition. I just think this Omaha team is going to take some beating this year, and they're going to, I think, I hesitate to say breeze past, but yeah, I think they're going to be too strong for NOCO.
There's always a fun. I would love to see a proper immaculate grid for USL. I'm just going to content spit out ideas. I've always wanted to do the FB reference race, who can get to player in the fewest amount of clicks to the USL. Always find those fascinating. I think that would just be fun. I feel like Noah Powder would unlock so many of those. Yeah, I'm taking Omaha. I didn't lock this one, and I think that I think that Northern Colorado is figuring it out. I think that they had a little bit of. I'm going to compare them to Orange County a little bit because Orange County is still dealing with Milan down there somewhere, but Milan's no longer down there anywhere. So like they kind of are doing the same thing of, well, Trevor down there somewhere. Well, Trevor's not down there anywhere. And I think they're finally learning that their system from last year was so heavily reliant on Rodgers and Amon that it couldn't stay exactly the same. And I think they knew that, but I don't think they fully understood how different it truly was. I think they are. I think they're going to push Omaha to the very brink, but I am taking Omaha. And Ryan just told me that I actually locked this. So LOL. I don't know. I'm with Alan. I don't feel comfortable with locking any of these matches that we picked today or this week. I feel like every single one of them are going to be nail-biting close. I don't know. Do we have any final USL thoughts? Anything from anyone? Bill? Did you? No.
No, I think I'm good.
I'm just ready for Birmingham to I'm just ready to see what they kind of roll out with, especially if Jake Roof is out. If I will say, if Jake Roof doesn't get a red, or if Juan Herrera's red card is not downgraded to a yellow, there must have been something insane said on the pitch that was not caught on video, because there's no reason why they should end up with different cards. That's the only I just kind of want to throw that out there, because they both had equal part in that altercation. One getting worse than the other tells me either a ref missaw something or he heard something. And if things don't get changed one way or another, I feel like we kind of got our answer. Not saying when I say heard something, I don't mean like he threw out a slur. I don't want that to be what's taken away, but like harsh language or threatening language gets straight reds. I'm going to be intrigued to see how the league handles that. But yeah, that's all I have for all this. Final thoughts for the night in general, Alan.
Yeah, if you want to feel like you're having a good day, just Google Angel Hernandez retiring, and you want to see everyone rejoice. The fact that you're leaving your job has got to be one of the worst things. So hopefully he stays off of social media. I don't think he has social media, but like, talk about a consensus about people just all feeling the same way about a certain person finally leaving the profession. As funny as it is, it's also got to feel like just absolute terrible. But I mean, he's probably laughing all the way to the bank. And then if you're looking for you educators out there who have all the time in their hands over their non-contract work time, and you like cooking shows, MasterChef Australia it's like 80,000 episodes per one season, and it's great. And there's like master classes. They teach them how to cook. They like take on chefs. It's like way different than American MasterChef. And there's literally like 50 something episodes per season. It is wild how long the seasons are. So if you feel like if you need something to binge and you need it to last a long time, like you're having surgery and you're recovering, MasterChef Australia is the way to go. It's on Tubi, and Tubi is free, so you don't have to pay for anything. You just have to watch some ads. So no extra streaming.
Now I know what I'm doing. Also, I kind of mentioned it. Now that Angel Hernandez is gone, people are going to realize the real baseball terrorists were CJ Buckner and Laz Diaz. Angel Hernandez.
Doug Eddings. I'm adding Doug Eddings to that as well.
Good. Doug Eddings is awful. People are going to realize that there were other baseball terrorists that were much worse than Angel. Angel was like, that meme of the soldier that's like guarding the person from all the. That was Angel Hernandez to CD Buckner and Laz Diaz.
I mean, Pat Hobberg, who called the perfect game in the 2022 World Series, is still the GOAT umpire.
Yeah, he's Pat Holmberg is so good. The fact that I am raving about umpires is crazy. But shout out Pat Holmberg. He doesn't need that. He's doing fine. Phil? Or I'm sorry, Ryan.
Yeah, so I just started an anime on Disney Plus called Blue Lock, which is really intriguing. It's about Japan's quest to create the perfect soccer forward / striker, but it's through like experimental tests, and it's within the goal of creating a soccer forward who is an absolute egotist towards themselves, that they only think about themselves. And it's really interesting to see the dynamic. Apparently, it's still ongoing and hasn't ended, but yeah, it's a cool kind of soccer themed anime that had a pretty decent first episode.
Was that the one that was based on Zlatan?
I can't entirely tell. They really blend at least real quotes and real reality, and then put in like their own like fictional being or fictional characters into the world.
Interesting. Phil.
Yeah. I guess this past weekend we talked last week about how it was a motorsports weekend coming up, and it was like Monaco Grand Prix in F1, which was an amazing qualifying and the worst motor race of all time. At one point, a race engineer told one of the drivers, "It does us no good to drive any faster." Like that, which is crazy that was said in a car race. So anyways, so there's that. And then the Indy 500 was the same day, which the rain in Indianapolis denied us the Kyle Larson racing the 500 and the Coca-Cola 600 in the same day, because there was a 4-hour rain delay in Indy. He raced in Indy. Ryan, keep me honest. He finished like 10th or something like that.
He finished 18th. He technically was leading with 10 laps to go, but was off cycle and had to pit.
Yeah, he had like a late pit stop. Anyways, there was a last lap lead change, or 2 lead changes, I guess, in the last lap technically. And yeah, so absolutely, that was absolutely insane. And when I don't know, it's just it was a pretty wild weekend there. And then yeah, in terms of watching stuff, cursed rewatch. Me and my wife are rewatching The Office. And man, crazy that is a television show that got made like not that long ago. Because it is just completely out of pocket. And there's some insane stuff. I'm like, man, this was only 2005. Like it doesn't feel that long ago. And yeah, just a wild TV show. But I am appreciating the swings they're taking. And even an episode that we just watched where they kind of crack down, like HR cracks down on Michael Scott's comedy routines. And I was like, man, this is such a good analogy for like every comedian who complains about cancel culture. Where they're like, well, I guess I just can't be funny anymore or whatever. And it's like, oh no, you can, you're just not. Like that's the, like what you're saying is not funny. So anyways, so in some ways it's timeless, I guess.
Who was the dad on Full House? What
Bob
was his
Saget.
name? Bob Saget. Let me tell you, there was a shock the first time I watched one of his stand-up shows. That was a moment for me.
Not as advertised.
Not as, going from America's Dad to whatever that was a real moment. I have also, okay, I've mentioned this several times. I have all the notifications on for the people on the USL show, and because of Phil, and now me, being in summer with teaching and stuff, I have a lot of time on my hands. So I've been watching a lot of racing, and I've been rewatching a lot of old documentaries, YouTube documentaries of racing stuff, and Imp Lemon, like Emperor Lemon, has a full documentary on Talladega, and it is stunning on just the history of Talladega, how it seems to be a cursed land, and how like the Native Americans were forced off the land however many years ago, and then and it's, I'm not going to spoil the documentary because it's absolutely fantastic and you should watch it, but it goes a full like history of North Alabama into the racing history on how it was cursed to start and how just bat crap crazy the most feared track in NASCAR is. Must watch. It's like an hour long and you get sucked into it very quickly. It's a very good watch. So yeah. Anything else from the night from anybody? We all good? Thank you again to our patrons. Thank you for letting us do what we do. Thank you to Goals TV, your one-stop shop for all things soccer. Anything that you want soccer related, it is there. Yeah, thank you all so much. And for the last time tonight, here's Alan's voice.
Thank you for watching another episode of the USL Show.
The USL Show is now proudly part of the Protagonist Podcast family. Please go to protagonistsoccer.com to check out more work. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see everyone again next time.